Hi, Amy Hill, Sandy Run News. I am with Brian Lee Merrill today. He is running for House Representative for District 93, right? That's all of Calhoun County, a little Orangeburg, a little bit of Lexington County. Tell us, first of all, what made you decide to run on local issues and things? What is your platform?
Platform is we need to get more conscious common citizens in the legislature. I'm not by any means running against anybody in there. I'm running for an office, but the premise is the common person needs to have a voice in those offices.
Right.
And the way it's set up right now, it's very hard for the common person to run. But I'm giving it a shot to show it can make a difference if I'm lucky enough to be elected. You know, common sense, middle class working person, that's the majority of our society, right? And it would be nice to see those people in those offices to interject their opinions and their viewpoints on things. And it also brings, I hear this term a lot when I talk to people, fresh blood, new ideas. We're not going to get that if we don't get fresh blood and new people in office. So that is
true, and I like what you said, that you're not running against someone, because these political campaigns tend to get really nasty sometimes, but you are running for an office.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have a purpose. It's not to self-serve, and I don't believe any of our individuals that are running are to do that currently, but it is for a purpose to serve the people, and that's refreshing.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us a little bit about more on your profile, your platform, as far as what are some of the things that you would like to see addressed, that you would push for?
Yes, ma'am. The big three when I talk to people, whether they're coworkers, whether they're just people I run into on Facebook or wherever, is taxes, education, and the roads. That's the big three I always hear about. The roads are in terrible shape, we know that. And I did some digging. I'm not, at this present time, I don't have the resources and time to give you all the answers on that. But I did a little bit of digging, and I saw the budget, which is online through the state website, on how much money is spent for roads, bridges, and repairs, and it's some astronomical numbers. What I couldn't find, and I'm very curious about, is the actual income from the gas tax that is supposed to go to the roads, bridges, and repairs. I couldn't find a direct comparison. I'm sure people out there probably know that, or somebody knows that, or maybe there's a resource to see it. I didn't see it yet. But that would be one of my things to really dig into if I get elected, would be to find out where the money's going, what is the holdup on certain things, and we've got to be able to do this more efficiently. There's got to be waste involved, and we've got to be able to drive that out, find a way to get that allocated to something better if it can't be allocated to roads, and just basically budgeting. I mean, the stuff normal people do all the time.
Yeah.
Seems like government's terrible at it.
Our roads are definitely in a mess, and this is a touristy state.
Yeah.
So if we want to welcome people from out of state, it seems like we would take better care of our roads to help welcome folks into the state to go to Myrtle Beach. We have, beautiful mountain areas and Rock Hill, and
not only that. I mean, Calhoun County specifically is extremely rural. There's I think there's 3 official towns in Calhoun County, and there's a lot of road in between, and there's a lot of it's primarily agriculture, and you see the heavy equipment riding around. They're the lifeblood of Calhoun County at this point, and we need to be able to give the right infrastructure so that we can handle that, and it's just not happening. The roads are falling apart.
They are.
Now, I'm originally from the Low Country, and I can tell you this, one thing I'm glad about Calhoun County specifically is our explosion of growth has not outrun the infrastructure yet.
Right.
The Low Country, Goose Creek area where I came from, it's unreal how much they're packing into a spot and not putting any thought into where the roads are going to be like, and the traffic. It's awful, and thank God we're not there yet. I think Columbia might be a close run for that.
We're not landlocked yet, but if the proper planning is not done. I could see that once development starts in some of the areas like Sandy Run, for instance,
Right.
I can see that we could get quickly landlocked, and the road situation, traffic would be like Blythewood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a nightmare. So tell me a little bit more about the education portion of your platform, and particularly there's a lot of interest here lately in history and learning history, and I know you said earlier you were a history buff, and
Oh, yeah.
how important is that to you to make sure that young folks learn the way that South Carolina would want the kids to learn, and everything as far as history, math? How do you feel about standardizing everything in a uniformed manner too with the rest of the country?
In a way, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a different culture, or there's several different cultures within the state. You almost have to form fit your education system to fit the culture in your area. Now, South Carolina might have a different culture. Well, it does have a different culture than New York, does have a different culture than the West Coast. And to me, education's a local thing. The local choice, the local people should decide what is important, I guess, is the basic way to boil it down. Now, history, math is a must anywhere.
Right.
I mean,
that's
it's
universal. Yeah.
Right. It's more uniform than speaking. So I mean, it has to be there, and we've got to teach them math, not this stuff they're doing now. I don't even know how to describe what they're doing now. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but when I was coming up, 3 plus 3 is 6.
Yeah.
Right, and now it's there. I've seen my nephew doing it. I don't know how they come to this, but anyway, we got to get back to basic principles. We also have to get more tech type, hands-on type training in school. When I was coming up, we had vote classes. You could go to local industry and learn a trade. We got to get back to that kind of thing. We're focusing way too much on things that are what we used to call, where I've worked at, was nice to haves. Okay, they're nice to have, but they're not necessities. Necessities are math, English, being able to speak, and I'm sorry, we got to have a common language.
We do.
I'm not, by no means am I saying that we should discourage learning a foreign language.
Right.
I'm not against that at all, but we've got to have a common language. That's part of being able to function as a society.
Most countries do.
Right. So the idea that we're going to not have a standard language is absurd, and that standard language is English. I mean, that's what we've always had. That's what that's our common language. So
you don't want to press one to get English?
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying get rid of anything. I'm just saying English is a must, right?
Yes.
So to divert away from that is insanity, in my opinion. To divert away from math is insanity, in my opinion. To not focus on learning a skilled trade is insanity, because most people are going to end up in the working class, and that's where the training should be at.
And those jobs are coming back.
Right, and that's true. We're starting. I mean, COVID kind of put a snafu on a lot of it, but it was starting to come back. We were starting to see more industry. I've been in industry all my life, manufacturing. That's what I've always done. I've worked at an aluminum plant in Goose Creek for 24 years. I worked at a machine shop before that, and I'm now working at a recycling plant in Orangeburg. So I've always been in that type of environment, and I can tell you that basket weaving and political science really aren't going to help people in that environment. They need to know math, they need to know machines, they need to know calculations, they need to know that kind of thing, and that's what we need to get back to.
Yes, absolutely. And history, as far as you said you were a history buff.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about the importance of preserving the good, bad, and the ugly, all of it?
Well, see, that's the thing. We can't ignore the ugly, right?
Right.
Because that's how you learn. That's how you learn from the past. We've learned, the Revolutionary War, American Civil War. There were good and bad in both of those.
Right.
And it also helps the kids to be able to see that not everything's black and white. There's a lot of gray areas, and if we teach history, all aspects of history, not just what we choose to teach about, and the aspects of each of each topic we choose to teach about, if we do the whole thing, it creates an environment where a child has to think at it, has to look at it, has to search his own soul to see what his values are in reference to all this, and we're all going to come out with a different opinion. That's
right.
human nature.
Yeah, that's liberty.
So the idea that we have to be on the same page with everything is ludicrous. That's not how humans are designed. That's not how this country is designed. We're supposed to be able to have different opinions.
Exactly. We should be able to have different opinions, but not equate that to hate.
Right, right.
Our country lived through, a lot of different history.
Right.
And we learned from it, and we've progressed. I strongly believe that preserving the history and teaching it to our kids will prevent any other types of repetitive, senseless things that did happen in the country, the ugly part.
Absolutely,
but
right.
you have to learn it. You're right, absolutely.
And it also teaches, there's several topics this can be applied to, but at that time, something might have been accepted.
Right.
At this time, we do not accept it.
Right.
And you've got to be able to distinguish between the two.
Yes.
Roman Empire, for example, they look at all the things they accomplished. They had the greatest empire, arguably the greatest empire in the world.
Right.
They invented aqueducts. They had a best road system.
Yeah.
We might be able to learn from that.
Some of those are still around.
Right. Yeah, theirs are better shaped than ours. All those things, but they also had human oppression.
Right.
That was a big part of what they did.
Yeah.
And to discount all the good they did, to throw it away in the trash heap of history, in order to downgrade their faults,
right.
that's not the way to handle it, because now you've lost all the stuff they just gave us.
Yeah.
And the bad has a silver lining.
Right.
We learned that we learned what that cost, and we learned not to do that again.
Exactly.
Right? So
I agree.
yes, history is hugely important.
Yeah, it is very much so. So as far as taxes, we live in a state where we pay property taxes. I come from a state where there were no property taxes. No, I've been in South Carolina for a very long time, since I was a child, but I still have family and go back and visit the state that I was born in.
Right.
They don't have property taxes. Each state taxes differently. They may have higher sales tax. Some people view a lot of things that are bought as a luxury or a necessity, right. and they adjust in different states. But what do you feel like the taxes should be?
Well, there's a good segue into this. I spoke with someone recently, and he asked me, that was one of his questions, was, how do you feel about taxes? So, taxes unfortunately are a necessary evil. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there shouldn't be any,
right.
because we've got to fund all this somehow.
Yeah.
However, the way we do it is absurd, and government, I'm sorry, but government is the world's worst handlers of money. They just are. And it's almost the whole thing about you give kid an unlimited allowance and just send him on his way with no discipline. What's going to happen? He'll spend it all up, nothing's going to get accomplished. And I hate to put it like that, but that's kind of where we are with taxes. The idea that we're just going to keep increasing taxes to fund all this is ridiculous. We need to reevaluate how we're doing it.
And structure it.
Now, if you remember, several years ago, I don't remember exactly, a lot of other things ended up coming up and it kind of got lost, but the fair tax. Mm-hmm. I'm a big proponent of that. I looked into it. I don't claim to be an expert on it, but I looked into it. I've heard a lot of very smart people talk about it, and I kind of poked around to verify some of the things they were saying. Now, obviously, it failed on the national level. It almost got there, but it didn't quite. The same benefits of a sales tax or a fair tax on a national level would do the same thing on the state level, and that's simplify it. You've got volumes and volumes of tax codes that nobody can make any sense out of. Right. We don't know if we're being robbed. We don't. They don't know what they're getting.
I think we know we're being robbed a little bit.
How we're being robbed, we don't know.
Yeah.
But if you put put a fair tax in place, it simplifies it. It makes it very cut and dry, and part of, I don't know how much the viewers know about the fair tax in general, but the way it's set up is necessities are not taxed. So everyone freaks out and says 10%. Well, what about the poor people and the less fortunate? Well,
Right.
they're not being taxed on necessities, child care products, food, rent, those sorts of things. Now, the things above and beyond that, yes, you're getting taxed on, and it gets put into the coffers of local and state government. And in the long run, I've seen the analysis, I can't quote all the numbers right now, but I've seen the analysis, you actually bring in more using a fair tax system than what we currently have.
And does it do away with things like property tax?
Yep.
And
it would replace all the current taxes we have. That's current sales tax, income,
Right.
state income tax.
So
et
truly
cetera, et
you're
cetera.
taxed on things that are not necessity, but are, more or less, I don't want to call it luxury, but things that you
Above
could
and
do
beyond
without.
necessity,
Yeah.
Yep.
And that makes sense.
And there is a bill in the House. Again, I don't remember the number right now. The numbering system's kind of odd, but
Yeah.
it's in the House. It's in the Ways and Means Committee right now, and it's been there for 2 or 3 years. So that would be one of my things I would want to do, is push to get that reviewed. Right. Get that through the committee. If they won't get it through the committee, I'll just keep introducing new ones.
Oh wow!
Until it gets a vote. We that's something we've got to address. We can't just keep pushing it aside.
And it most likely failed on the national level or the federal level, because it does limit. And if you have a fair tax, then you can't put all these in-depth, quirky taxes and tax laws. They go away, and it limits their income coming in, I would think, as far as federal government. And they would have to watch. I mean, nobody likes being put on a budget. I certainly don't. My husband would love for me to be put on a budget. But nobody wants to be told what they can and can't do. But it seems to me that right now they're ignoring.
But from the government point of view, it's not their money.
Right.
It is, in the sense that they're custodians of that money, but they did not put that money in there.
Right.
So they have to be on a budget. They don't have a choice. They don't have to like it.
That would be lovely if they would all stay on a budget, but nobody likes their power taken away, and money is power. So
absolutely.
I can see why that failed for that very reason. But and I know this is not part of your platform, but it is a huge topic, especially here in South Carolina, down at the State House, and they have the heartbeat bill.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as life and abortion, tell me what you think about, either a woman's right to choose or a conceived baby's right to live. Where do you stand with that?
I'm pretty traditional on this, and it will make some people angry, but that's okay. I mean, like we said earlier, we're allowed to disagree.
Stand by your principles.
We're allowed to disagree on things, and we're allowed to disagree on things, and we're allowed to have an opinion. We're not going to like what everybody else thinks always, but it is what it is. My opinion is this. What it boils down to is, when does life begin?
Right.
Now, I'm scientifically, I do have a religion. I'm non-denominational Christian, but I'm looking at it from a scientific point of view at this moment, and there is no scientific point life begins.
Right.
No scientist can sit there and
consensus.
say, okay, at this point, this is when the baby is now a person. There isn't. It just doesn't exist. A lot of it has to do with when, do you believe there's a soul? Well, scientifically, you can't disprove. There's no avenue for that to even be discussed. So it all comes down to your personal opinion, and it comes down to whatever religion you might be. It comes down to whatever experiences you might have had.
Right.
My opinion is life begins at conception.
Right.
So to me, again, I know this is not going to make people happy sometimes.
That's okay. You have to stand by what you believe.
And I do. To me, murder and abortion, there's no distinction between the two, because we cannot point to when life begins.
Right.
So it's an opinion, and my opinion is conception.
Right.
So what I would do if I was elected was, obviously, after all I just said, I would try to ban it from South Carolina. I mean, that.
No, I understand that. So You are an independent write-in candidate, so
Yes, ma'am.
that means you are not going to show up on the ballot.
That is correct.
In Calhoun County or across House District 93.
That is correct.
But so that individuals will know what they need to do if they want to cast a vote for you, explain what they'll need to do, and you may even want to spell out your name and let them know how they would cast that vote for you for House District 93.
Yes, ma'am. Quite obviously, I picked the hardest possible route to run for an office.
Yeah.
Independent write-in. That means I don't belong to a party. For the purposes of this campaign, I don't belong to a party, and I will not appear where you can just click a button next to my name and you can't vote straight party ticket, and I will not be part of that. So for District 93, if it's on your ballot, what you would have to do is go to the write-in. There's a write-in choice on the screen. You have to click on that and type in my name, and it would be BrianLeeMerrill.
So Brian Lee Merrill, write-in.
Yep.
And again, it's important that you guys know that, so that you do have a choice. For House District 93, Brian is running against the incumbent, and you would need to write in his name, Brian Lee Merrill, and not push straight Republican or straight Democrat. So you would have that choice. But just write it down, and he does have a website. So it is www.votemerrill.net, MERRILL. And if you have any questions, you can contact him at votemerrill@gmail.com. That's pretty much it. And I thank you so much for coming out here and meeting me, because I think it's very important that individuals know that they do have a choice. They have incumbent and what we call fresh blood independent thinker.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopefully so. That's my aim.
Yes. So I highly encourage you to go on his website and send him any questions you may have, and hopefully we'll see more of Brian between here and November. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.